Before we begin, this video is brought to you by my Patreon. Due to the selective and arbitrary standards in which monetization is granted to videos, I can't guarantee that my videos will be monetized. So if you want to support the channel, please check out my Patreon and consider donating. Not only does it support the channel if you do so and allows me to create more content and better content, but there are all kinds of good rewards ranging from personalized AMVs and anime style openings made by me, to 3D art commissions also made by me, early access to content and videos before they come out, and so much more. So please check it out, support the channel, and let's get on with the video. Hello, and welcome back. Now, for those of you who may remember, a while back, I made the first episode of Never Go Full Retard, in which Angry Joe shilled for a propaganda film known as Art of Self-Defense. And I said if enough people wanted to see me review this, let me know. Well, a few months later, I saw the comments and I noticed that a lot of people wanted to see me review this, so I'm going to fulfill that promise. Now, sadly, due to the inconsistent standards set in place by YouTube, I'm going to avoid showing scenes from the film as much as possible. As much as I would like to show scenes from the film, to show what I'm talking about, sadly, since I'm monetized, I'm not going to take that risk. But just trust me on this. I actually suffered through this film, and if you're interested, I will leave a link to a website where you can watch this film for yourself in case you believe I am over-exaggerating it in any way. I'm sorry, I know this style sucks, but for the sake of the channel, it is what it is. I'll let you guys know if I find an easier way to do this without YouTube breathing down my neck. Anyway, so Art of Self-Defense. Holy shit, this movie is really bad. And I'm not even certain where to begin. I guess what I can start with is, what is this movie about? Well, Art of Defense is about this guy named Casey who gets beaten up randomly in a mugging, and he decides he wants to buy a gun and then take a martial arts class in order to be able to defend himself because he doesn't want to feel weak anymore. And then so-called shenanigans and hijinks ensue because this is a comedy movie, but it's not that. This is a feminist propaganda podcast disguised as a film. And given that it's a propaganda film, sadly, film-wise, there's not much to talk about here outside of the story, which is just boring. The characters, which are also boring, stale, and extremely dry, they offer absolutely nothing. Almost every single character in this movie is just bland and dry, and this whole movie, watching this movie, it's like being stuck in a very socially awkward conversation, but you just can't get out of it. That's what it feels like. Like, all these characters legit announce their feelings. Like, there's a part of the movie where the character's dog dies. He goes into his martial arts studio and he starts just announcing that, I am very angry. I am eating my food very angry, and just throwing his food on the floor and spilling stuff on it, and it's so bad. There's another segment where he just punches his boss in the throat for no reason and says, stop trying to start a relationship with me. Bosses do not have relationships with their employees, and just being a complete dickhead, emotionless robot for no reason. And that's what's very frustrating. Everybody in this film just talks like an emotionless robot. And if you remember in my Angry Joe review, he had the audacity to compare this to Napoleon Dynamite. But to compare this to Napoleon Dynamite is total BS, because this movie is nothing like Napoleon Dynamite. Napoleon Dynamite was funny and actually had a charm to it. Yeah, characters in that movie were awkward too, but it was done in a funny and comedic way, and not every single character was like that. Only like 2 or 3 characters were like that, and one of them was the main protagonist. But even the main protagonist, Napoleon, he still had charisma to him. It felt like a character. But in the case of this movie, you don't get any characters. What you get is just a bunch of, I guess, humans, but are played by robots. Like, it seriously feels like the people who wrote this script in massive quotations had never interacted with a human being in their entire life. And the way this film is shot is not much better. The cinematography is just very basic. There's no style or substance to it whatsoever. But I think probably the most frustrating part about this movie is the propaganda and the way in which it portrays men. Now, there are scenes in this movie that are just nothing but blatant propaganda. For example, there's a scene where the main character, after getting mugged, logically goes to buy a gun, as you would, because he wants to protect himself, and the gun store owner just starts spewing a bunch of so-called statistics, but it feels like it was written by some kind of gun grabber that has no clue what they're talking about. He's sitting here saying nonsense like, oh, you're statistically more likely to end your own life with this than an actual intruder. You're statistically more likely to end your own family members with this than an actual intruder, and just a bunch of nonsense that makes no sense. And keep in mind, this is coming from the gun store owner. Like, realistically, this would not happen. And then he sits there and just goes on and like, isn't it great that we have a background check and all this stuff? And I'm thinking, this is not funny, and this is blatantly inaccurate, and I wish I could show the scene itself, but I'm not going to chance it. If you're morbidly curious enough, check out the film, but if you know anything about guns at all, or just did your research, you would know that this is false. It's almost like this script was a podcast that was run by a bunch of people that had no idea what they were talking about. But moving on, the most annoying part about this film is the blatant feminist propaganda message where they say that, oh, real men don't have names like Casey. That's a feminine name. No, they have Russian and German names. German names are more manly. Like, we don't listen to contemporary or classical music. No, men listen to metal. Just all kinds of stereotypes that are absolutely ridiculous. Like, I can tell you from the perspective of a trap, someone who has the perfect balance of masculine and feminine, I can tell you that there is absolutely nothing purely masculine about metal music. Like, metal music can take on different forms. Hell, listen to some Evanescence to see how not all metal is just this aggressive, masculine type of music, and it's absurd to say that all metal is like that. Metal is diverse, just like any other form of music. Same with classical music. Anyone who thinks that classical music isn't for men, I urge you to listen to the soundtrack from one of the 3 John Wick films, and then tell me what you think about so-called classical music being feminine. Also going around saying that, Oh, Casey, that's a feminine name. I'm gonna need you to change your name to a German name. Are you serious? But it gets far worse. It is revealed that the people in the martial arts studio go around beating up and mugging random people simply to show off how manly they are. In some cases, people actually die, and it gets revealed that there's a crematorium in which they burn the bodies, and it's like, what the hell? And this is set up as some kind of dark comedy. Oh, look how dark and edgy this is. When in actuality, it just portrays men as psychopaths that go around assaulting people simply because they're men, because, you know, toxic masculinity, which is absolutely ridiculous because the woman in the studio does the exact same thing, which, by the way, even the woman is just completely emotionless and just says how she feels out loud in the most bland, robotic way possible, which makes no sense. And it culminates in the main character's dog getting killed, being replaced with a German Shepherd, because German Shepherds are manly, I guess. And then the main character gets a gun, shoots the sensei in the head, and then gives control of the studio to the random female for God knows what. And then it just ends right there. Like, I wish I had more to say about this movie, but there really isn't that much to say about it. Like, it's just a propaganda film that was a podcast turned into a script, because you can't exactly put a podcast in theaters. This is another example of what happens when you make a movie where the message comes first and then you think about the movie afterwards. How about write an entertaining movie first and then think about a message or theme? Don't put the theme first. And as for you, Angry Joe, screw you for suggesting this film to people. It is terrible and it is irresponsible to go around sending people to watch these propaganda films and giving them high scores, thinking that Hollywood should produce more movies like this. No. Like, this movie is a 0 out of 10. It is boring, it is awkward, it is dry, the story is terrible, the way in which it portrays men is terrible, its message is terrible, its theme is terrible, the acting is boring and bland, just everything about it is terrible. Even Jesse Eisenberg, who is a really damn good actor, I love Jesse Eisenberg, one of my all-time favorite actors, even he can't save this film because he's forced to portray this very boring character. Even when the character shows emotion, the acting doesn't feel genuine. Like, there's a scene where he's crying in his car, and it's so fake. Like, I'm not an actor, and even I could do a better job fake crying than this guy could. And again, this is Jesse Eisenberg, a really good actor. This just goes to show that not even the best actor in the world can get you a good performance, because an actor is completely dependent on the director. And when your director doesn't know how to direct, then your actors are going to be completely screwed. And that is exactly the case here. Even the opening to this movie was incredibly frustrating. The first couple minutes of this movie is a couple walking into a coffee shop talking in French, but they don't add subtitles for no reason, so you have no clue what they're saying unless you understand French. And it was annoying because when I was watching the movie, I thought I accidentally found a foreign version of it, but no, the opening of this movie is just in French for no reason. I guess it was done to show how cultured this movie is or something. I have no clue. Please, for your own sake, don't watch this movie. I know I can't stop those that are going to become morbidly curious, but the reason why I say don't watch it, it's simply because this is a very boring movie, it's not entertaining, and the whole point of film is to be entertained, and this movie does not do that. I really wish I could show clips from this movie so you all could see what I'm talking about and I could spare you the frustration. But like I said, link will be in the description to a website where you can watch this movie 100% free so you don't have to worry about wasting your money on it. But with that being said, have you seen Art of Self-Defense? Let me know in the comments what you thought of it, and if there's any movie you want me to review, please let me know. If you like these movie reviews, I will gladly do more. I would love to do more, and I'll see you guys around next time.